Imagine if 80% of your employees use the data that you produce. Well, that's the case of Mercado Libre. And today I'm excited to talk to Adrian, Senior Director of Data Analytics at Mercado. This is a company with 35,000 employees serving 107 million buyers. Adrian, thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
Thank you, Bruno. Thank you for the invitation.
All right, well, let's get right into it. You've got lots of data, lots of people, and lots of engagement. So tell us, what does Mercado Libre do?
Well, Mercado Libre is an Argentinian company that has the largest online commerce and payment ecosystem in Latin America. We have more than 107 million customers and 35 purchases in average per second. So as you say, it's a huge number. And imagine that we have all of these transactions and navigation logs in our analytical ecosystem, and that it's around 30 petabytes of data. We had moved from Teradata to BigQuery in this year. So it was a huge project. We started probably slow, very slow or at least in what I expected. But then we made the arrangement and we could complete the migration of more than 2,600 tables in this year. And we are moving all the users all the analysts to BigQuery. And for that, for example, we had translate in a batch process using your code from compiled works in more than 32,000 queries in the last months. So talking about data and analytics and people in Mercado Libre, it's a lot of tools, a lot of data.
All right, and we're going to talk about that. 107 million buyers, 35,000 employees, a lot of data, and you really focus on building applications on top of your data stack to activate this data. So let's dive into the specific of the use cases. What is going on with data at Mercado Libre?
Well, our main objective is to become a data-driven company. So for that, the first thing that my team need to be is an enabler. So this means that we are not only have to provide real-time data, we also, because our business is a real-time business, so batch processing is not an option, but we also have to provide world-class technology to allow all the employees to access data. And in this way, we not only use the technology that are available in the market, we also develop our own technology. And the second thing that is really important for me, it's to train the employees to be the ones that generate their own insights. Because probably this is the most challenging part. It's not easy to make this complete cultural change without training.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this, what you call, I think, Data Culture 2.0 and your academy with masters and creators and explorers. Before we get to that, tell me about the data stack. You have BigQuery, you have Looker, you have Tableau, you have data across multiple clouds. What are the main products that are involved in your modern data stack?
Well, we used to have our data warehouse running in Teradata, and we also have a data lake, but this last year, we migrated to BigQuery. So right now, our analytical ecosystem is running on BigQuery. We also use GCS, but the main projects are in BigQuery. Then we also have Tableau, Looker, also Data Studio, and for example, Alation. But we also provide to our users our own data suite. Here they can run their own queries, they can move data, they can analyze that data, and then they can prepare a graph or an insight this data suite. And something that we do is to measure the use of these tools, the use of this data, because for us it's impossible to know how the users are improving their data skills. So for that, we have, for example, a data-driven index in which we analyze the use of the data. And with this data-driven index, we can ask some employees to take different trainings in our data academy in order to upskill them. So this is why what we say that it's in Argentina is comer el pescado que vendes, but here it's walk the talk. I think in English,
Yeah.
and it's the way to use the data as a important product, as a key asset to move the culture to another level.
So you have, I mean, the average organization has data penetration of maybe 30%. In your case, you have 30 petabytes of data, yet you have 80% data penetration, and you're using that data to inform what you're going to train people on. What are the use cases? You talked about the suite, this data suite you've built. What are the applications you've built, and how are people interfacing with it?
We had 35,000 employees, but we identify the potential users. Those potential users are around 24,000 employees. But we know that almost 20,000 are using our data tools. So this is why we came to this 80% of penetration, of data penetration. In terms of this, we don't ask them to use, for example, Looker or Tableau. They can use the tool they decide to use. But we also develop these tools, in this case, this data suite, because it was necessary to sign kind of user, to sign specific users. Then you can realize that almost all of the users come to our data suite, because in our data suite, we have, for example, our dashboard catalog. So any user or each user, each analyst, each director that need to consult some dashboard come to our data suite. Then we also develop, for example, our query builder to run queries, in which, for example, we have take advantage of the product that, for example, you provide us. We develop a key button to translate the queries that we had, or the users were writing in Teradata. So once they run the query, they can choose this button in order to have the query in BigQuery ready for run and stop running in Teradata. This is something that we use. And for example, in the last 2 months, more than 6,000 queries was translated with this button, with this feature that we integrated in our data suite with your product of Compiler Works. This is something that we do in terms of develop the technology, but we also, for example, we try not to develop what, for example, in your case, you have developed, or you are in a way to develop. For example, before we have Looker and Tableau, we also have MicroStrategy. And once many years ago, we tried to connect Tableau to the data in the iCubes. And there were a connector. There weren't. So we developed our own connector to connect the Tableau users to the data in the iCubes of MicroStrategy. Many months later, they came out with this feature. In this case, we had almost the same situation between Tableau and Looker. And once we talked with you guys, you said, stop, don't try that. We will develop this connector between Tableau and Looker. So in these cases, we use what we have from the environment for our partners. It's the same with the data catalog. For example, we have our own data catalog because it's needed for our situation. But in the last CAP, talking about the future of Dataplex, it's for us, we decide, well, we should stop investing in our data catalog and try to use the API or the backend of Dataplex and develop only the thing layer for our data suite using these Dataplex APIs. No? So this is what we try to do in terms of using the technology available in the market or developing our own technology.
Yeah, we really have a strong partnership from end to end, from the catalog all the way to the integration with BI on making sure we could provide you with what you need. So we've talked a lot about the technology stack here, and of course we'll share, and we have shared here the architecture diagram so people can orient themselves. We have a fairly sophisticated data stack that's multi-cloud and uses both the collection of on-prem as well as cloud solutions. It's amazing to see what you've done with Compile Works, where you kind of helping people through the transition and do that very simply. Now let's switch maybe to the people aspect of it. You just talked about it earlier, making sure you engage people. So tell us a little bit more about your data culture, how you build it, how do you drive kind of this data literacy with your people?
For me, this is the most important part, no? Because I think the data, we are all of data producers. The technology is available in the market. Companies like you have all the technology probably solved. But the challenging part is to move the users from one side to another. When you the traditional BI, it's everybody asks to the BI team the reports, the data, the dashboard that they need. But in my opinion, we need to move beyond the dashboards. And for that, we needed to develop a self-service strategy in Mercado Libre. This will allow us to become a data-driven company. So for that, we started with different trainings, workshops. Right now, we have a complete data academy in one, for example, in our data academy, you can take different trainings in a synchronous mode, and it's designed to every new employee that joined Mercado Libre. The first step is to take Data Explorer. Then you could move to different layers and you can upskill inside this data academy. But you can also take advantage of our training that are with people, specialists from my team. For example, we have data lanes, data sheet that where these analysts, these employees come to our to these workshops with a project or something to solve. And after they complete this training, they will have the project and the knowledge to solve it in the future. We also have, for example, data doctors, where are slots that we assign to solve questions that are not basic questions that you come with a problem that you can solve in your daily task. The last thing that we had created was the Data Champion Program. It's a program of 9 weeks working with us, where we develop this, or not develop, probably upskill these advanced users so they can share the best practices, they can share the knowledge within the community. And one thing that was really interesting was, that 2 weeks ago we have our data week. We presented data challenge in which we had 22 teams working in different initiatives, more than 100 analysts working in these teams, and these teams were guided by a data champion. So this is the way in which we upskill, or we spread the culture in Mercado Libre.
So we have the data-driven index, we have the data doctors, we have the data champions, we have the data week. You really have built a whole program beyond just the technology to make sure you had literacy around data around your company. Now, this is not your first rodeo. You've been doing data for a long time. So I think it's appropriate for us to switch to this a part of the interview where I ask you about the do's and the don'ts. So if you were to start at the beginning of your journey, we start with the positive here. What are the things that people listening to us need to absolutely start with? What are the must do that is going to set them up on the path that looks more like yours?
It's important to take advantage of the technology. This is, we work in three pillars always: the data, technology, and people. In terms of data, is bringing the real-time data, the data that the people need, but also the technology that they need to analyze the data, to access the data. But if you have the data, all of data, amounts of data, hundreds, terabytes, petabytes of data, and the technology, the world-class technology, but you don't have a culture of data, what you really will have, it's only a waste in the company. So the second part, and it's training and early trainings. Don't wait until you have the technology and the data available. Start with the training in parallel. So this is the way that I understand that you can make a cultural change. And then, of course, if you are a data and analytics team, you should use the data to know your users. It's why we developed this data-driven index.
So don't go out and build your own technology, use the technology stack and partner with the vendors. You've got early training, and I'm curious about that. So I'm going to ask you a follow-up question on that. And of course, use the data to measure the use of the data, which is that data index data-driven index you talked about. About the data culture, did you have to hire someone new to do this? How did you do it as part of your team? I mean, this is a full-blown readiness, initiative. Most engineering organizations don't have employees that know how to do that. So how did you decide to launch that, and who did you pick to lead that initiative?
Well, in the past, we tried to train the employees. We did workshops and everything in our own as a project of the BI team, the data and analytic team. But 2 years ago, I decided to create the team of culture dedicated to this initiative. And after that, well, we integrate all the initiatives that were spread inside my team in this data academy and the whole learning path. So for that, it's, in my opinion, you need to have a head of data culture, of data literacy. And then what we, in our case, what we do is we work with partners like you. We need, for example, we migrated from Teradata to BigQuery. So for that, we need to make the onboard of the new analyst to BigQuery. And for that, we ask you to provide us with workshops about BigQuery optimization. And in this workshop, for example, in only 2 workshops, we had more than 2,000 attendees. We also give then specific training classes during 1 month to optimize query to our heavy users, the users that we had identified as heavy users, in that case, of Teradata. Well, for those, we give specific training, but these trainings were guided by some of my team. So we work in partnership with our partners. Some workshops we ask our partners to take, and the other workshop or specific training we try to provide with our own team. And all, for example, the data doctor hours that I say, all of these hours are attended by my team. Specialists from Looker, Tableau, the tools that we use, make available some slot in their agenda, so you can book a specific slot and ask the question that you need to solve.
You have a head of data culture, which is amazing. What is the profile of that person? Like, what are they? An educator? Are they a data engineer themselves?
It's a really good question. It's people that they can be data engineer, analytics engineer, data scientist, but in the end, they love to teach. They love to share their knowledge, because we have data engineers that prefer to code or to make available the data, and you can force them to give a training. But then you have the same people, the same mates of them, that they want to share their knowledge. They love giving some workshops. So inside our team, we identified those profiles, and they don't report to our culture head, data culture head, but they work together in order of that. One day they can prepare, for example, an machine learning model, and 2 days after they can give a training. The same with the analytics team. They can be working in a project of analytics, and 2 days after or one day after, they can give a data doctor or a learning part, or some of the courses in our learning part. So it's inside our team, and you have to identify, you have to ask them which one want to share the knowledge, and well, take them. And of course, you need to, for the specific data culture team, you need to hire profiles more close to, for example, communications, because you need to prepare all the communications that the courses, the training that you need. So for those specific tasks, you need this profile. But then I can share the team, and you will see that there are data scientists, there are economics, there are writers, text writers inside this data culture team.
So they are technologists first, and they have a passion for education. Yeah. So we've talked a lot about the do's, and I can't leave this interview without asking you the mistakes, maybe mistakes you've witnessed, maybe mistakes you've experienced yourself. What are the things that if you were to do it differently, you absolutely would advise people listening to us, don't do this, but do that instead?
You don't use the technology without knowing this technology as much as possible. Because what happened, for example, with that is, when we started the migration to BigQuery from Teradata, we love developing technology, using technology. So for us was to say, well, we know how Teradata works. We will put this in BigQuery, but we didn't take account that what is working, what that was working really well in Teradata, probably wouldn't work in the proper situation in BigQuery. So then we made the adjustment, and we work with the GCP team, because it wasn't only our fault. It was a fault from the both sides. We tried to do that, and you guys could say, no, stop, don't do that, because what is work in Teradata probably won't work in BigQuery. So I would say that it's don't use the technology until you know really well how the technologies work.
Well, Adrian, that was excellent. We learned a lot today. Thanks for spending time with us today.
Thanks, Bruno.
Well, I hope that people are going to reach out to you and connect with you. And also, if you want to find out more about customers just like this, click on the link down below. Stay in touch. Until next time, I'm Bruno Ziza.